Thanks for coming back for part 2 of Solidworks multi-body modeling. But let's take a look at this. If we were to sketch on the face of this extruded surface, make another sketch here and extrude a surface, there is no merge result in this surface dialog box. And second, by default, Solidworks surfaces are going to create a new body every time you create a new feature. Now, there are some exceptions to that, such as if you fillet between two surface bodies, you're going to wind up with a single surface body. The knit feature will result in a single surface body rather than multiple. Things like trim surface will edit an existing surface rather than create a new one. And that will happen also for extend and untrim, as well as delete whole and some others. But for all of the standard surface creation tools rather than surface editing tools, every new operation, extrude, revolve, sweep, loft, boundary, fill, and so on, everything is going to create a new and separate body. So if you're working with surfaces, you're often going to get a very long list of surface bodies, where if you're working with solids, your list tends to be a lot shorter. Now let me show you something that you can't do in SolidWorks bodies. You can't do something like this. And this turns out to be, a big argument every time it comes up on the forum. And I participated in these arguments once or twice. And after that, I think I kind of learned my lesson. And I know which side to take. Okay, so we've got a shape like this where everything comes together at a point. Now we're going to take this shape, this sketch, and try to extrude it. Well, we're not getting a preview. And SolidWorks just isn't going to let us do it. The sketch cannot be used for a feature because an endpoint is wrongly shared by multiple entities. Oh, wow. Okay, that's a problem, right? Okay, so you can't do that kind of thing. This is the issue known as the zero thickness problem, or some people call it ZTG, zero thickness geometry. Okay, here's another thing you can't do. If I were to I'm already sketching on this plane, but if I were to go like this and extrude this, well, if I extrude it up, it turns out to be no problem, even though it looks like a problem. This is going to look like the zero thickness geometry problem, right? But it's not. SolidWorks solves this very easily because it just makes that a separate body. It's going to be the same sort of situation if we take that extrusion and we go the other direction with it. Okay? This is still the kind of thing that would be a zero thickness geometry. Zero thickness geometry is not allowed in SolidWorks. But the way you get around that is by making that a multi-body. If we look inside the feature, the merge result option has automatically been turned off because SolidWorks recognizes this. Now, there are a lot of people who argue that SolidWorks should be able to make zero thickness geometry. What they're really telling you is that they aren't creative enough to know how to work with this kind of thing without creating zero thickness geometry. There are many ways to get around this. Mathematically, in the direction of keeping your model stable so that it always works and you can count on the inside being the inside and the outside being the outside, just realize that zero thickness geometry in SolidWorks doesn't work. Now, let me show you a problem that arises sometimes. Okay, we got a block here. And we're going to put a big fillet on this side. Okay, now we're going to use the shell feature and to shell this out, right? Okay. So that's great. But now we're going to take this fillet and put it down after the shell. Oh, wow. Boy, we've got a big problem here because Solidworks, it turns out, doesn't understand the inside from the outside. And yes, this is impossible, but SolidWorks is showing it anyway. This is just one of those glitches that's in SolidWorks, mainly due to a setting. I really only show you this to show you that impossible things are actually possible graphically when they're sometimes impossible physically. If you were to put this on a mill and try to make it, you know what you'd have? You'd have a big pile of scrap and probably a busted cutter and who knows what else you might have ruined. If you try to make this out of plastic parts, you're gonna make a big loud bang, I can tell you that. And somebody's gonna be very unhappy, and it's gonna be a very expensive sort of problem. Because no matter what you see on the screen, this is the inside of the part. And the outside of the part, you can't even select because it's this curved face and the inside of the part is getting away from it. So when it comes to logic and CAD and geometry, the three are sometimes separate things. You have to know how to understand that, and I need you to accept that zero thickness geometry in a single body is not possible in CAD. There are some CAD programs that allow you to do it, but they're playing fast and loose with the rules, and there are going to be other problems that they're going to have later on, and you're going to always come back to what you have to do in SolidWorks. So don't fall for the, yes, there should be zero thickness geometry. It's like a social movement. People get very upset about this. The setting that makes this happen is found in Tools, Options, Performance, Verification on Rebuild. When this switch is turned off, it just makes sure that adjacent faces don't run into one another. But when it's turned on, it makes sure that there are no faces in the body that run into other faces in the body. This is why it's in the Performance tab. It really slows you down quite a bit, but it needs to be on, especially if you see weird anomalies. So if we turn that switch on and rebuild the model, now that fillet fails, as it should. So there are many ways to make multibodies in SolidWorks, and some of them are what we call the master model tools. We'll talk more about those in a separate video. But those are going to be things like insert part, which will take an external part, bring it into the current part as a separate body. And then there's insert into new part. There are the delete and keep body commands. There's the split command, the combine command, intersect command, and the save bodies command. And there are also multi-body commands that you can use, such as join and cavity. So we'll talk more about these later. Thanks for watching.